Defendant in this case is a doctor. The prosecution says he was trying to help a man abuse his daughter. Let's get started. Oh, let me start by saying that I've never seen a more disgusting set of facts than the ones in this case. On December 2017, two people made an appointment with the defendant for a consultation. Those two people were a father and his adult son. This was not just any type of consultation. It was about sexual abuse of the father's young daughter. Specifically, the father wanted advice on how to make his daughter's hymen thicker because it was too loose and that bothered him. Now, if you don't know what the hymen is, it's a thin membrane that covers the opening of the vagina. It's not uncommon for the hymen to be torn or to have an abnormal shape. And in some cases, it can be surgically repaired. That's what the father wanted. He wanted to repair his daughter's hymen. But he didn't want to tell his daughter why the surgery was taking place. He wanted the doctor to lie to her and tell her that the surgery was to remove a small growth from her genitals. So the doctor asked the father, "Are you sure you want me to go forward with this?" And the father said, "Yes." So the doctor then told the girl that they were going to remove a growth. The girl agreed. She said she understood. The next day, the doctor performed the procedure. The father was present for most of it, but he left the room while the doctor was actually performing the procedure. After the procedure was finished, the doctor saw the girl in a recovery room and talked to her about having sex. He told her that she shouldn't wait too long before losing her virginity because apparently he had concerns about her virginity. So then the girl goes back to her room, she spends the night there, and the next morning she gets discharged. The doctor then sent a bill to the father for over $2,600. Now, the weird thing here is that the father and the son both gave the same address when they made the appointment, which would indicate that they both lived together at the same location. But the doctor received a separate bill payment from a different address, a different house altogether. So the doctor calls that number to confirm the payment. And it turns out that the person who paid the bill is the uncle of the victim. Also, the uncle tells the doctor that he is upset because the doctor didn't tell them about the procedure until after it already happened. Like they found out about it from the victim. They weren't notified ahead of time. The doctor says, "Oh, sorry. I thought it was an emergency." The uncle says, "No, it wasn't an emergency." The doctor then tries to explain to the uncle about the importance of the hymen and how it can affect a woman's future fertility and how the procedure that he did was actually helpful. The uncle responds by saying, "I do appreciate what you've done. I'm glad that you took care of my niece. We have other daughters and we will be bringing them to you." "What?" "Yeah, like other daughters, plural." The doctor was like, "Wait, you got other daughters?" And the uncle said, "Yeah, like it was no big deal." Later on, the doctor gets a call from Child Protective Services. They ask him questions about the procedure. And he admits that he lied to the victim about the nature of the procedure, but he denies doing anything else wrong. I guess he felt that lying to a little girl about a surgical procedure that she didn't need was not that big of a deal. But making plans with her uncle to sexually abuse more victims was somehow crossing a line. Okay, now here's where things get even weirder. When the police interviewed the father, he admitted that he requested the hymen repair and he confirmed that he lied to his daughter about the reason for the surgery. But he denied doing anything else. Now, remember, the whole reason the prosecution brought these charges against the doctor was because he helped this guy abuse his daughter. But the father told the police that he didn't do anything. He didn't abuse his daughter. He just wanted the hymen to be repaired. Then the police interviewed the mother. She said that she didn't know anything about the surgery, but she did admit that the father did abuse their daughter. So it sounds like this poor kid was being abused by her father. Okay. So then the prosecution brings all this evidence to the grand jury, and they charge the doctor with first-degree sexual abuse and first-degree criminal misconduct. Now, this case eventually makes its way to trial, and the doctor's first witness was actually the victim herself. She testified that the doctor told her that they were going to remove a small growth and she agreed to the surgery. She also said that nothing inappropriate happened during the procedure and that the doctor didn't touch her inappropriately or anything like that. In fact, she said the only concerning thing that the doctor did was talk to her about sex. He told her that she should lose her virginity soon because it's important to lose your virginity before you get married. She said that was really uncomfortable. That was the only complaint she had. She didn't say anything about him touching her. She didn't say anything about him doing anything besides talking to her about sex. Now, the girl's mother also testified. She didn't know anything about the procedure, but she did admit that the father was abusing the victim. So again, the defense tried to argue that there was no evidence that the doctor helped the father abuse the child. There was no evidence that the doctor touched the child inappropriately. All he did was perform a surgery that the father requested. Technically, it was an unnecessary surgery, but there was no evidence that the purpose of the surgery was to help the father abuse his daughter. However, the jury found the doctor guilty of both counts. Now, in reaching their verdict, the jury made the following finding of fact. The jury found that the doctor told the victim that the reason for the procedure was to remove a small growth, but that wasn't true. But the jury also found that the doctor did not tell the victim that the real reason for the procedure was so her father could use her for sexual intercourse. So the question becomes, can the doctor be convicted of helping someone abuse a child if the doctor didn't actually know that the purpose of the surgery was to help the father abuse his daughter? Well, in order to convict the doctor of helping another person commit a crime, there must be evidence that the doctor intended to help the father abuse his daughter. Here, the doctor literally told the victim that the reason for the procedure was to remove a small growth. The victim believed that. So even if the father had bad intentions, the doctor didn't share those intentions. So based on the evidence presented at trial, the jury should have concluded that the doctor didn't intend to help the father abuse his daughter. Therefore, he shouldn't have been convicted. Also, the doctor wasn't charged with failing to report suspected abuse. And yes, I know that doctors are mandated reporters. That means they have a legal duty to report any suspected child abuse. But here, the doctor didn't know that there was abuse. He didn't know that the father planned on abusing his own daughter. So, he didn't have a duty to report abuse that he wasn't aware of. Then the judge sentenced the doctor to 7 years in prison. That sentence was within the range of punishment for the crimes. But the court decided to enhance the sentence because the victim was especially vulnerable due to her age and because the doctor was in a position of power when he committed these offenses. Again, I agree that the conduct in this case is absolutely disgusting. But convicting the doctor for helping someone else commit a crime when the doctor didn't even intend to commit that crime is just wrong. Now, one final note, if you thought this case was crazy, you should watch this case where a babysitter was accused of raping a 2-year-old. That case is just wild. You're not gonna believe it. See you over there.